line up against JaZe here.
Absolutely. So Lest in this matchup is actually, like you said, bringing Forest, which I think is great. Again, we know that he's going to be fighting against D-Shift and Control Blood, which Forest is great against. He's got the same blood and the same rune decks he's bringing. I feel like the rune deck might be a little disadvantaged here, like this late game rune deck that he's trying to bring, but we'll definitely see. But like Aya said, this is a very big, and JaZe, there you go. Good luck, have fun from JaZe. This is a big comfort pick from JaZe. I think he's playing the 3 decks he's most comfortable with. We know that his skill is there, so maybe even if his matchups aren't at their best, the comfort there, the skill there, I think JaZe still has a slight edge here, but Lest, as we know, is no slouch. So, Aya, what do you think about this matchup? Do you think Lest has what it takes? Do you think he's got the right decks? How you feeling?
Well, I think with Lest bringing this really heavy late game neutral list, it's going to depend on how well he does in an early game. We see that he has 2, 3, 4 in hand, so he will be able to do that, but we do see that the Kaleidoscopic Glow is in JaZe's hand, so he'll be able to bounce that back. But again, if Lest can put enough beef on the board throughout the course of the game, it could make things more difficult for JaZe to be able to match. So, and if JaZe never actually draws into his D-shifts, because right now he doesn't have it in his hand, if he never draws into them or he doesn't draw into all the things that he needs, he could have a very difficult time winning his match.
Yep. There could be a point in time where, like, maybe a tempo turn of, like, a Flame Destroyer plus a Fiery Embrace plus a Chimera can all come down on the same turn and put Lest at a disadvantage after, like, Evo points are gone. But other than that, like you said, without D-Shift, it's really gonna... Oh, never mind.
Oh, never mind.
D-Shift players are drawing their D-Shifts today. All right, so no big deal there. So JaZe right on time with his D-Shift there. Perfect.
So he drew his D-Shift. He not only drew into that, but he drew into a Trail of Light and into a Sorcery Cache. So he's going to be able to spell boot a significant amount in the coming turns.
Now, he doesn't quite have a lethal setup, but as we know, we talked about this, Aya. Last week we were kind of like, you know, what is Chimera doing in the deck? We don't really understand it. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. We saw that can be another lethal setup with a Flame Destroyer with D-Shifts and stuff. So it is just another potent threat that you can play that can deal some extra damage to make sure that D-Shift can go the entire way when it combos instead of just almost all the way.
Well, Chimera does kind of something that Flame Destroyer doesn't do. Chimera can remove, say, a pesky ward if it's in play, like in way. It can, and Flame Destroyer doesn't do that without you having to burn an Evo. And you can play, and Chimera is more flexible than Flame Destroyer. You really want to play a Chimera a lot earlier than you want to play a Flame Destroyer. A Flame Destroyer you want to save to when you win. With Chimera, you can be like, all right, you know what? I need to stabilize this game, so I'm going to jam my Chimera in the mid game so that I can do that. And it's a 4/4, so it's not like it's a slouch to get over, and you don't necessarily want to ignore it either because it just makes it easier for your opponent to assemble their combo against you.
Right. And I find it to be really interesting because it's kind of like Hector. It's kind of like neutral runes Hector. Like, you can play it not necessarily always on 5, but pretty close most of the time. And it does the same thing except an extra point of damage, which is very, very relevant a lot of the time.
Definitely. So he will be able to clear Feria, but Lest is going to be able to push a very large amount of damage this turn.
He's going to be able to protect his board and pump. I like this. I like this.
This is great. This is excellent. So he's going to be able to hit for 7 damage to the face. And as we know, D-Shift doesn't have any healing. So he's not wiping that damage away or nothing.
Right. Now, Kaleidoscopic Glow, again, we've talked about this plenty of times. Evolving a 2-drop against Rune is never what you really want to be doing because of Glow. But bouncing a Fairy is not really what you want to be doing as D-Shift either, especially if you leave neutral followers in play, because it can just come back out and do the same thing it did last turn. So...
Well, we do... Well, let's see. JaZe does actually have the ability to play both Fiery Embrace and Chimera this turn. He can play Angelic Snipe, hit face, play Fire Embrace on the ward, then play Chimera on the Goblin Mage. So he does have the ability to do all of those things this turn.
And he might have to just pull the trigger. He's at 8. I don't know if he can really afford not to clear board pretty much for the rest of the game, especially knowing his opponent is playing things like Illusionist, Gilgamesh, Zeus. You know, these things that can just burst out of nowhere, which is crazy. The Illusionist in this deck as like a win condition is just awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I was not expecting Lex to be to do that. I was not expecting that.
10 damage Zeus. Oh.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Unbelievable.
When do you ever see 2 Zeus on board?
Right.
Unless someone's
exactly.
playing Jinker. When do you ever see that? It's crazy.
Okay, so I think he is going with the option. Yep, like you said, clear up board and playing the Flame Destroyer.
Oh,
I like
don't know
it.
about this.
Oh
I
my
don't know.
goodness. He's going in.
Well, this is incredibly heads up. I don't know. Oh, actually, I guess that line is going to work out.
Yeah, this is 2 turns before an Odin. There's not really a follower that can challenge this. Like maybe a perfect Felice could have dealt with this Flame Destroyer, but as we see, there's no Felice in hand. Right. So
well,
I like this
he does
play.
have a way. He does have a way of being able to deal with it. He could play Illusionist to get the Hector back from before, and then he will be able to. He could clear it that way.
Right. This uses
So
an
that
Evo
is
and
an option.
is entire turn though, which is exactly what D-Shift wants your opponent to be doing. However, if this gets dealt with, does JaZe really have the gas to come back and win the game?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. I think, by making this play, he kind of is banking that Lest can't deal with it. But I don't know if it was right. This seems really risky.
It's definitely not a play you would see from a D-Shift player every single game. So JaZe definitely had a specific line he wanted to play with this play. Basically saying, I don't think you have any possible way to deal with this, and it's just going to win the game, essentially by itself, because I can Fiery Embrace another big follower after you Evo to kill my Chimera, and then I can just start drawing some more cards. But, like you said, that Illusionist can deal with it.
On the warfield, a shining helmet.
I kind of like this. I like this play, and I like it for a specific reason. If Lest draws a Sahagwell, he just wins.
That's true.
You know,
He's going
draws
for the
Saha, he
Sahagwell
wins.
draw. Yeah.
Yeah, he just wins because Zeus is in hand, and then he's putting JaZe at 5. So, yeah, I do like this line of play.
It's
But
very interesting.
it does put him in a position where he's kind of doing what JaZe did. JaZe made a very hard read. You can't deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Or even more so, you're not going to want to deal with this. So,
Right.
yeah.
The line from Lest here is very gambly, because essentially he's giving JaZe the option now to actually win with followers and not the D-Shift combo. So JaZe has an interesting choice here. Obviously he can just clear and go face. I was going to say, and he could put up the ward to prevent that lethal, but again, if he draws Sahagwell, the Sahagwell can be evolved. So this is the draw.
It won't be long now.
Like, this is where Lest's play becomes very questionable.
Right.
Like, was it really right to
We'll
do
see
this?
right
Was
now with the draw. It could be.
Yeah. If he draws
be
a
that-
Sahagwell. Okay, that's not a Sahagwell.
That was close. That was
that was
super close. Is that... Wait a minute. Is that enough? If he
Wait,
can...
no,
No, because
that's-
that can't be pumped by Farrier. For some reason, I was thinking Felice could be pumped by Farrier, but no, that's not
No,
a
it can't.
possibility. So
But even if, Felice wouldn't be able to Evo itself, remember? So,
Right.
He wouldn't be
But
able to do
it
that
comes
anyway.
down, and then... Oh, that's right. You can't Evo both anyway, so never mind.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just going
that's what I'm
crazy
saying.
La La Land with possible plays, and that's not even possible. So, yeah. So Les took a really big gamble, and it didn't pay off here. Maybe he just thought that, you know what, maybe that play was just so good, I don't really have another response other than to try to get lucky. And maybe he didn't even see the Illusionist line. We don't know.
It's possible he didn't see the Illusionist line. I think if it were me, I think I would have had to have taken out that Flame Destroyer. You know, because we could see, okay, JaZe is playing his cards out with a low amount. And if I was able to make sure that his board was clean and that, you know, make sure his board was clean, his D-Shift would have meant nothing.
That's my only thought when I play against D-Shift, because I've definitely played a number of games where I myself as a D-Shift player or my opponent just kind of unloads threats on a single tempo turn, like I even said at the beginning of the game, where you just play all 3 of these cards on the same turn for a big shift. But once you do that, if those threats get dealt with, you're kind of out of steam for a long time. Because A, you have to draw threats, B, you have to spell boost them again. So it just takes so much longer to rebuild back up. And yeah, Les went for the gamble, didn't pay off that time.
You know, I just kind of want to touch on that play just one more, the Flame Destroyer Evo play. I feel like that play was geared specifically towards Lest as a player.
Right, that could have been. Maybe
That's what I
JaZe is
feel.
not just very skillful in the decks that he's playing, but understands his opponents and what they're going to do against him.
Right. That's what I
Some-
think. What was the case?
I like
the
it.
case was.
I like it. So we've talked about this before. Control Blood, not the best matchup. We actually, in the EU side, saw Patina just concede this matchup. JaZe, not so much. JaZe is like, I'm going to play this matchup. I'm not giving up any free wins here.
Well, there is another reason that, you know, he gave up the matchup because it was the last in the set that he had already lost 2 games. JaZe won his first game, so he has a little bit of breathing room.
That's true. That is true. So, yeah, basically what we're seeing is most of the cards that you're going to see JaZe have don't really do a lot to stop what Forest is trying to do. And this isn't some weird neutral Forest list. This is even more combo-oriented and straightforward than we actually saw on the EU side. This doesn't have any Elf Twins assaults or anything like that. This is just straight old school combo Roach, Selwyn's Command, Ancient Elves, right down to a T. This is like basically a season or 2 seasons ago, Forest, where it just didn't have anything outside the box. It was just trying to kill you with combo. That's it.
Okay, you're just playing that. But now, one of the things I want to point out is that the matchup with Control Blood for Roach has changed a little bit. And the reason it has changed is because of Mask of Black Death. Okay? Mask of Black Death very heavily affects Roach Map. So if you're sitting there and because with Roach, you need to think a couple of turns ahead. Okay, I can kill on this turn with this amount of play points, etc., etc. Mask of Black Death can be like, okay, I'm being played. And
and it's kind of like a pseudo ward that prevents possibly even more damage because it can't be killed with like a Dance of Death or, you know, Sylvan Justice plus other cards, things like that.
Right.
Now, I question Les not playing Selwyn's Command on 3 instead of the Ancient Elf. It would have dealt, basically, he would have gotten in a few more points of damage this game. So we'll see if that actually turns out to matter.
Well, given his hand right now, his hand's not particularly stellar. And by that I mean Les's hand. It's not particularly stellar, but neither is JaZe's. JaZe's hand, it's very reactive. He does have Revelation in the event that Les just fill the board again or put more things on board.
He might just have to single rev this.
Yeah. I don't think that you can just leave the Fina there. Again, we know that he's not going to care about wow, another rev. Okay. But we know that Les is going to be like, all right, if you leave this in play, you're taking damage and you're just making my Roach combo easier. So blowing a single Revelation on that was a really good line.
Especially drawing the second rev. Like, that was probably the card that he wanted to see, honestly, if he had to use a rev, is to find a backup just in case the board did get flooded again.
So he played 2 Revelations. He drew into his 3rd one. So, and then not only that, if he does play Rev next turn, the following turn, he has access to Emeralda, which can then take out something else.
Right. And I think Les is getting close. So he just drew another Goblin Mage, which I think is the only card he's going to play this turn to find a second Roach, because we know he has the 0-cost Goblin Mage to find the first one. And then, honestly, he just needs to draw Nature's Guidance, and he's going to win this game in short order here.
I don't believe that Prince of Darkness is going to matter.
No. If this game goes down to a Prince of Darkness finish, color me surprised. Okay, because
I'll be very surprised.
Yeah.
I
Same thing with Bahamut and all that stuff.
I don't see him playing Revelation on the Goblin. I don't see it.
No. He might play the Mask here, but he might also think that Les doesn't have combo yet, which technically he could assemble if he top decks the Nature's Guidance. So it is a possibility. I don't think it's lethal until turn 8 because he only has 1 0-cost, and the Angelic Snipe can't necessarily... Well, yeah, can't necessarily be played.
Well, Les can play EPM next turn, Evo get 2 0 costs.
Right.
So he'll have 3 0 costs in hand, and he'll have access
Right.
to 2 roaches. So
Either
I
way,
mean,
it's turn 8 is what
yeah.
I mean.
yeah. And I don't
So
think
he
you want to play
can
Mask
wait.
here, though.
Yeah, you might not want to play Mask here. You really don't want to play Rev here either. But again, I think you have to do something. You can't take the free chip damage. That's just basically calling for suicide here.
I think
However,
if he was
Mask
gonna
of
make
Black
any of
Death
the
is... Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. I was going to
No, I
say,
was gonna
Mask
say-
of Black Death is actually super interesting against Forest because if you do clear off their chip damage, generally, as we've seen in the past, Forest just doesn't do anything. You know what I mean? It just kind of sits there until it assembles combo. And Mask of Black Death is just free to sit there turn after turn to count down for, like, essentially 5 turns against Forest, just saying, hey, do something.
Right. Which will also give JaZe the ability to start putting some type of pressure on Lest. But, as we can see right now, this is basically JaZe having 21 health.
Right.
But actually, not even necessarily just 21 health. It's gonna block everything, even if it does use up health. So he's gonna have to play very specially around this Mask of Black Death.
Yep, and I love the Evo here.
Such a tedious game.
No reason
I
not
love
to.
it.
He's sitting on 3 of them, and I mean, we see the will of the forest, but well, there's an H's guidance.
There's the guidance. I don't think
think
he
you
can
will-
push through the max. Yeah, I think you will the Forest to clear out the threat. And now, I think you have to try to do something about this Mask. I feel like you have to play, like, you can clear with the Will of the Forest, and you have to play at least a Fairy. Because you don't need all of the 0 costs. You can play at least a Fairy to maybe chip at it one more time. Maybe JaZe won't clear out the Fairy by itself. Just to kind of give you a sped up turn, essentially, with that Mask of Black Death.
Right. I think Lest is doing the math.
Honestly speaking, we've been talking a lot about the back and forth of what's going on. Oh, he might just have it here. Maybe he did the math and he knows he can fight through it. But I was going to say, even if this game went into the late game, realistically, Control Blood just has to sit there. It's not going to be able to kill Force in any relevant time frame. And then Les can just combo whenever. So it's not like he was in a bad spot regardless.
Oh, wow, he did have it.
Let's count it.
It's that's it.
Yep,
That's
that's
15
perfect.
damage. He had it
Perfect
exactly.
Roach Math Flex.
Good job, man.
I lost. You're tough.
JaZe did the shrug. He's like, oh.
Yep, they got it. Yep, this is the matchup we expected to go in less favor. So evening up the score here, 1-1. No easy breaks for either player here.
Nope. I find it very interesting. The one person who brings that brings Forest wins with it.
Not
And
only
not
that,
only
but
that-
he only brought it for the finals.
Yeah, he only brought it for JaZe. I
That's
love
right.
that. I love that. So it's kind of like even more counterplay. You know, the first
it's a
game
good
we
tech
saw that-
choice.
Yeah.
We've
It
seen
is.
JaZe likes to play slower decks in these last couple of tournaments, so definitely a heads up deck choice.
There's more counterplay between the two of them. These guys know each other incredibly well. They've
Yep.
played plenty of games against each other in
You must
tournament.
die.
So
I guess you're looking for
I
a
mean,
fight.
now we do know Lest has to win twice, though.
Yep.
So if he wins this set, he still has to win another one.
So let's get through another one, and I think that's going to be the hard one. So as you said earlier with the D-Shift game, JaZe kind of makes plays expecting what Lest is going to do on the follow-up, and it actually won him a game. And that's like way into the mind of your opponent. If that's the case, after a fresh set of games against this opponent, if you think that way, you're even going to be better prepared for the next matchup coming on. So I think if Lest wins this, JaZe is even going to be hunkering down more and maybe even has a bigger advantage.
Well, this is okay. This is a thing. So Cinderella is actually going to be really strong in this matchup.
Very strong.
Cinderella is one of those cards that is a very big difference maker between Neutral Rune and Neutral Sword, because Neutral Rune doesn't have easy ways, especially on the play, to be able to deal with Cinderellas on curve.
These are my best
So
Especially when they're not playing any spells. This is a full follower deck from Lest.
Yeah.
And of
So
course, we
he's-
know Cinderella is the biggest 3-drop, and that means that no follower is going to be able to match up to it accurately.
Right. Right. Okay, so we see that Lest again has that really, really, really heavy top end with the two Zeus's in hand. We know from like the previous game, we don't. Well, I know that he has 3 Zeus in his deck. So yeah, 3 Zeus. I believe 2 Gilgamesh. He's tons and tons of Storm, but
Yep.
he's got to get.
He does have to
Gotta
get
get
there, and this is the first roadblock.
Yeah, and he's not going to be able to get rid of the Cinderella right now. There's no way.
Now,
He has no
speaking
card-
of the Cinderella, there's not really a good follow-up play for JaZe after the Cinderella. He can't really play Unica with anything, if that's the play. If he plays his other Cinderella, he can essentially just heal trade, essentially put back together a full health Cinderella in play if he wants to do that line. But
Right.
not a great turn 4 play.
Nope. But we do see both players don't have their Alice, so we won't be seeing turn 4 Alice. From
Don't say
either
that
one of
yet.
them.
We don't know yet.
Well,
There is a top
I'm
deck
not
to happen.
All right.
Uh,
I want to point out that I'm not entirely in favor of what Les just did. He traded to do 2 damage to the Cinderella.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure I would have done that. I think I would have just gone face because I can't kill it anyway, so why minus your own board?
Plus, you could just
I don't
Evo the
know.
Cinderella and push face here to force an Evo anyway. So, I mean,
So
but
this doesn't
that would leave the
actually-
Actress Feria, so...
Yeah, I guess.
I
but-
don't think it matters pushing the 2 there. Maybe the consideration, and this is the only thing I can think of, is that Lyriel was opening up as a possibility for JaZe this turn, and he didn't want it to just die, essentially.
I guess that's fair.
Yeah, that's
is
probably the only point that I can think of, and it makes sense. This is turn 4. Like, we could expect easily like a Unica plus Lyriel clear board, and then you didn't get any value out of that 2-1. So I think that's what he was thinking.
Well, this also does prevent JaZe from freely trading with the Cinderella, should he have tried to do so. But I don't know if he would have traded, and I don't think that I would trade with the Cinderella in this case either. And he is. Wow. Wow.
Being the aggressive player and being reactionary here might, in the long run, hurt JaZe because less is favored the longer the game goes.
Yeah. So I was dead wrong, but I'm not entirely sure if I agree with this. I don't know. I'm not agreeing with a lot of plays right now.
It's okay. They're like we've talked about this before. We know these players are on their own levels, right? They're very competitive players. They know what they're doing. It might not make sense to us immediately, but in the grand scheme of things, they might have their own game plan. Whether they're right or wrong, who's to say immediately? But definitely different choices. And as we can see, all these extra room cards in the deck of Les kind of hurting his Felices. We haven't seen his Felices be these game-breaking things that we normally see Felices being.
Exactly. He will be able to get rid of the Cinderella, but JaZe's turn 5 is really just either Unica into the Rabbit Ear Attendant or play Albert. I mean, you don't want to burn Amazing on that.
Yeah, and I don't think you want to use your Albert here either.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, all right. Now with the second Albert in hand.
When in doubt, draw another Albert. Like, always draw Albert.
Absolutely
We
right.
know
Now,
Sword always
saying
has
that,
two
Albert wouldn't have been a terrible play that turn because, again, there would have had a lot of resources out of Lest, an Evo point, another follower, just to deal with the Albert. But decided he wanted the card draw first, which makes sense.
Well, we're seeing right now that, yet again, another reason that Lest's deck is kind of hurting him right now, that Hector does not have 3 neutrals to be able to use this ability.
Right. The illusionist specifically being the card that's blocked that a couple times, Grimoire being the other card. But yeah, just his neutral part of his deck is not operating the way he wants it to right now. That being said, Felice is still a great play here.
Yeah, I was about to say that. He can still play Felice. He doesn't even necessarily have to Evo it right now. And I wouldn't. Like, let's say I didn't know I didn't have blind information. I still wouldn't Evo it.
Gotta save it. Your opponent has 2 left.
Yeah. There's no point.
It won't be long now.
Oh, wow.
He feels the
No
need
crying.
that he has
No
to
looking
Evo.
back.
Oh,
Wow.
being aggressive. Okay. Council of Card Knight's an insane draw.
Is impatient.
That was. I don't think he could have drawn better.
No,
Like-
that was quite literally the best card he could have drawn. This will easily clear out the Felice and allow him to just keep pushing face damage.
Yeah.
The queen.
You couldn't have drawn better. I think less top deck powers are kind of beginning to work against him.
Right, right. And
Getting
then
to
we're
work
just
against-
seeing basically just people throwing punches at each other. Less than JaZe, just like literally taking off the gloves, throwing punches. They're like, I'm gonna clear your board, you clear my board, I clear your board. Like, this is a very specific game that's being sculpted. I don't think it's a natural game that you would normally see on ladder because of the two players knowing what they know about each other. Who's
Definitely.
on the winning end of this, I'm not sure yet.
Well, it does allow him to turn on his Hector.
Yes.
And now, but JaZe is in a very good position right now to be
He is.
able to just pressure with the Albert. He can play the Albert now. Not now. It's not his turn, but during his next turn, and just kind of start going. The Hector can take out the Bane. I mean, or he could even just opt to play Maisie, clear board, go face, and then save the Alberts for later. Like,
That's
or
what I was
play
thinking. I was
Maisie
thinking
and
you
Albert.
could even do both. Yeah, Maisie and
Yeah.
Albert next turn after the Hector, because I think Lest is going to play Hector this turn because he needs to clear out that Bane. And then the follow-up's just going to be Maisie, Albert, face, clear ward with the evolved Maisie. And the follow-up's not going to be great from Lest. His only follow-up really is either a Saha Quill into a Zeus or
Yeah.
a Magic Illusionist. You know what I mean? He doesn't have great options at this point.
So he's leaving the Bane in play.
Come on, everyone. Hurry up.
And this
Jeez.
prompts JaZe to play completely differently. He's like, oh, you're going to keep my Bane? All right. He might even keep
Yeah.
it again. He might just Evo the Rabbit Ear Attendant or another play here just to go through. But I think he wants to save the Evo point, especially with Maisie's in hand and Albert's.
Yeah.
He just has too many valuable cards to Evo here.
If I were him, I would consider trading with the Bane and just going face. No point to Evo. You could play the other Rabbit Ear Attendant if you wanted, because why not? Or, yeah, that's the only line I think I would think about here. I think trading, saving the Evo point for the Albert or the Maisie should you need it, I think those are the lines.
Yep, I like that. And yeah, I mean, of course, got to play that Rabbit Ear Attendant first
Right. See what
if
you
you
get.
want to get full value. Mm-hmm.
There are no wolves out
Oh,
Oh. Ooh.
okay. So maybe doing our first option, which was
Yeah.
yeah, instead of playing the Albert here for full damage, deciding to go with the Rabbit Ear for more card draw, which is not a bad step. Saving Alberts for turn 9 is never bad.
No, it's not. And we see that he has another Council of Card Knights, so he will be able to Council of Card Knights into a Rabbit Ear Attendant next turn. On top of that, holding on to 2 Alberts in hand. Like, Les is in some trouble here. He doesn't actually
Yeah.
have answers to this board.
Until turn 10, he's kind of just dead in the water. Now, if he could get to those Zeuses can block Alberts pretty well, but he's got to get there.
Well, yeah,
Watch
but
these
that's not doing it.
illusions.
On the
No.
warfield, a shining helmet.
That will help,
That's
but we can see 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 11 damage
Let down.
possible from JaZe at the moment. Not quite lethal.
No. So it's 3-5. Yeah. So
I still think you throw out an Albert here. You get him to 1.
I don't see why
and
you
then-
don't. I don't see why
Yeah.
you don't. It's a turn before the it's a turn before turn 10, actually 2 turns before. So yeah, I think Albert is a completely fine play. And again, we know that Les board outside of Bahamut does not have board clear.
Right?
And he has no way of being able to win off of the back of this next turn. It's not.
Honestly speaking, JaZe doesn't even need to play the Albert this turn. I just think there's no reason not to.
Right.
If anything, even to clear something, in case you think your opponent might be able to set up some kind of a lethal next turn, which we know is not possible. And realistically, I don't think it's possible for 14, at least not until the crazy illusionist turns on turn 10. like we saw before.
Right.
But
I don't think we're going to be seeing that this game.
no,
So
definitely not.
I don't really know what he's going to be able to do here. Lester's in a very bad spot. No way of board clearing. I mean, Israfil would have been a great draw, but
Hurry up.
I don't know. Like, there's not really much he can do. Yeah.
Sky Knights, prepare for
Okay.
battle.
So basically doing like a double-edged blade here, being defensive, like I said, while also pushing enough damage to make an an enhanced Albert lethal next turn. I think he's in a great spot. I think this is lights out for Les this game. I don't think there's anything he can do this turn to stop it.
Nope.
These are my best work.
Despite having, gone first and whatnot, he just wasn't able to generate enough pressure on board.
Gimme.
Yep.
It's like he's just digging for nothing. He's just playing cards.
So just to get at the point here, I really think that deck construction plays a really big role in less like how his deck has been playing out here. Of course, I mean that's usually how deck construction goes, but very specifically that he couldn't get value or enough value out of Felice or Hector early enough in the game is to actually push ahead. It was kind of hindering him. So JaZe might be able to just take this out on the first playthrough here.
Yeah. He has
Starting
his control
option.
blood left. So, because he lost with the control blood, so he has this left. So Lest has 2 chances to beat control blood.
See if he can do it. He's got to do it with Sword also, which is, again, we did see Sword push through before. Why do I keep saying Sword? Why do I keep saying Les has Sword? I don't know why I keep thinking he has Sword. For some reason,
Maybe you just like Sword.
maybe
Deep
I just
down-
like Sword. No, that's me. It's just me. I don't know. What I was gonna say, his blood deck, this crazy Frankenstein blood deck. I really don't know. This one's up for grabs. I don't know how this Vengeance blood deck is going to play out. Honestly,
I don't either. I have no insight for you other than let's watch the game.
That's right. Which is what we like to do best. We like to watch games. We like to talk about games. Generally, Vengeance Blood has a really good matchup against Control Blood because it can really just keep you outside of Vengeance and then just push a ton of damage, with Dark Generals and Blood Wolves, which his deck can do. It's just not specifically designed to go that route all the time. Like he's got kind of more defensive option and more of like a control game counter with Caraboss. So realistically, it could be in the same spot. And he just has Carabosses thrown in there to help him even more against control, so probably still a good matchup.
I think this is a little different, though, than traditional Control Blood. Before, we weren't seeing Control Blood running Blood Moon, and Blood Moon really changes the scope of the match.
Yep.
Blood Moon gives you access to those Revelations, gives you access to the Righteous Devils. It gives you access to so many cards, Diabolic Drain. It gives you access to all these cards that really change the way that this matchup used to play out.
Not only that, but Mask of Black Death has been proving game after game that it is just a really good card.
Yeah. When the card first came out, I don't know if you remember this, but when the card first came out, we were all like, this card is busted, it's great, this, that,
Yeah,
blah,
it's
blah, blah, blah.
too good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it didn't really
And
show
then-
up in the meta.
Right. And then all of a sudden it came back, and it coming back did so much for it. Like now it's a staple in Control Blood.
Right.
I can't imagine not playing in Control Blood.
So, counter to what I said earlier, this is not looking like Frankenstein Blood at all. This is looking like straight up aggro Vengeance Blood, which is exactly what Les wants to be drawing in this matchup.
Should I suffocate you? Suffocate
So-
you. Ow.
I like this Evo. It protects very well against the He will be able to take out one thing, and he'll have to run into the ward. Won't be able to take out the Urias, so he'll still have damage.
This thirst, quench them.
Yep, Urias kind of mitigating a little bit of the life gain here.
Go. Go.
So instead of gaining 2, he actually only gains.
One bite's all I need.
Trades into the ward. Of course, we know that Les is probably just gonna ignore that Sabrewer.
Yep, that's what you do.
No reason.
You should almost, and we might even get to see an early Caraboss this game. So this might just be unload then Caraboss and then just kind of just continue with the beats and hope that the Caraboss pushes you over the edge with the card advantage.
Now, I don't see much reason. Okay, if he wants to protect his board, he can do that. Play Spiderweb them. He could also just. Okay, he's gonna hold the Razor Claw. I was gonna say Razor Claw, but this is fine too.
Check this out.
Powerless no more.
And
I
he's
like
gonna,
it.
It's all face. All
Yep.
face. All the time.
Basically, the smallest follower, he's like, yeah, you can ram your Sabrewer into this, or you can Evo into it, but yeah, I'm just pushing.
Yep. Oh boy, that's not what JaZe wanted to see. You can see it on
Prince
his
of
face.
Darkness
He's got that.
it might be the only card in JaZe's deck where he was just like, I thought I was going to play against a lot more control, and it just didn't happen, so this Prince is kind of just meh.
This thirst. Quench them.
Ends up being very subpar.
Yep.
So he actually only gains one again. That one ping
One
is
bite's
very
all I
substantial in
need.
this matchup.
hmm
Very substantial.
Every
Especially
damage
since we
counts.
know- Every damage counts, especially since we know Lest is playing a more aggressive deck. I can't imagine Caraboss doesn't get played in. Well, actually, it's not
Caraboss could be
entirely.
a play here. He could try to
play
empty
Gulf.
here. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
He could just honestly go Baphomet, Blood Wolf, and Razor Claw this turn, and then set up for Caraboss next turn, kind of after getting rid of a lot of these cards just sitting in hand.
There was
I like
nothing to
getting
be
rid of this.
afraid of.
For one reason, if he chooses to put JaZe into Vengeance outside of the Blood Moon, because the Blood Moon's going away next
There
time,
was nothing
then
to be afraid of.
Emeralda would have actually killed him. So
Right.
I like him deciding to do that.
Right.
But he's keeping him directly out of Vengeance. He is going to open himself with the Blood Hungry Matriarch, though. So that is.
So this is going to get really tense here. With double Emeralda in hand, JaZe actually becomes the active aggressive Vengeance Blood player here.
Yeah. So now what Lest can't do, Lest cannot
Is play
play
Caraboss. Right.
He can't play
He
it.
plays Caraboss, he's just going to lose to repeated Emeraldas.
Yeah. He cannot play Caraboss.
Technically, he wouldn't necessarily lose next turn, but he could. But then again, he could always top deck like Vengeance Blood does into like double Dark General or something crazy to just maybe finish out the game. But we're definitely not seeing that line of play here, which is great. Very heads up from Les to know that he can't play the Caraboss here to stick him into Vengeance.
Okay, this one's
Yep.
all me.
And again, he's still sitting outside of. So Emeralda will actually only be able to take out one thing.
Ecstasy.
The one that he plays. If he.
Ooh,
That's a good.
that was
draw.
beautiful. This will
was a
allow
great-
JaZe to actually play the Blood Moon before the
Yeah.
Emeraldas.
Yep. I love this. And that I don't think in that situation the only card he could have drawn out would have been better would have been Revelation.
Right. Yep,
But I like
Revelation
this
would have been
is-
the best, but yep, this works.
Yeah. This gains him health. Again, Lest has to be incredibly careful about putting JaZe into Vengeance. Oh wait, it doesn't matter because he's gonna play the Blood Moon, so it won't matter if he
Right.
plays him in Vengeance.
Right, not going to matter
So,
anymore.
Yeah.
But I think that is the best play here. I think the best line is Blood Moon, Diabolic Drain, and then just set up for Emeraldas to be this ever-present thing that makes life really hard. Essentially. I didn't think this shift
So-
was going to happen, but this is really interesting to see the shift here.
JaZe's thinking really hard about it, making sure. I mean, he's one game away from just two-peating.
Right.
Like,
This is the most important game he's played yet.
yeah. And I don't know if he's gonna like. I don't see how he can lose.
I mean, he can definitely lose. There can be a spike of damage here, especially with this play not gaining life.
Wait. How much damage does he have? Let's.
So technically, he just said, if you have double Dark General, I lose with this line of play. We know that Les doesn't, but that was opening himself up to it.
Well, actually, Dark General into Double Razory would have also just won. So, which he doesn't have. Well, he has a Double
No
Razory,
Dark
but he doesn't
Generals.
have Dark General.
Yeah. This does set up lethal next turn for JaZe, though, possibly, if Vengeance is gotten into. Like, if Les keeps waiting, he might not have an opportunity to actually kill in the end because these Razory Claws might become unplayable. We'll see.
Quench them.
Well,
You're kidding.
okay. So, in effect, what Lest has done is nothing. What I was gonna say was he made it where Emeralda lethal doesn't kill him and he would still have followers on board, but
Right.
yeah,
For fun and games. There was nothing
he's gonna
to
be able to.
afraid of.
JZ's gonna be able to gain a lot of health.
Gain a lot of health, push 4 damage, and again, there's no Evo points left over for less, so dealing with followers is not easy.
No, it's not.
And now we can't even play
can't.
the Razor Claw.
Nope, can't at all. And that's it.
That's game.
That's it.
JaZe!
That's
JaZe! Becoming the aggro Vengeance Blood player against aggro Vengeance Blood.
Yeah.
Outrageous.
Outrageous indeed.
And you can see JaZe already knows it after the Caraboss play. There's no like crazy shenanigans happening.
Nope. It's a wrap. Pack it in.
Les, 2-time champion, plays the Prince of Darkness to show us that we're wrong, that it's never going to come into play.
Well, it's not a good
Good
thing.
job.
Right.
I lost. You're
Showed up with the flare. How awesome.
The
JaZe, 2P.
There it is. JaZe with the tournament-winning play there. Emeralda coming in for the last shot, and he really turned the tables there on Les, was able to go on the aggressive front, and I really think that this JaZe has been, very consistent with the deck lineups that he's been playing, demonstrating excellent.